Today I want to show you how to make a box. So this is like a box I made a while ago to store some incense sticks, and I burn resin, so little bits and pieces. I brought this to show you because this is steel greenware. I made this a few days ago just to practice, and you could make a knob like this to indicate where it fits. But also the other way of doing it is if you have anything to imprint. This is also, I think, quite a nice way to match the pieces, because the lid is not made separate, but it's made from a full cube, and you cut out the lid. That's why you can see that this piece is like one. It's a one imprint. So that's what I would like to show you today. So I attempt to make the slab the way that Hyungjong makes on the floor by hand. This is a lino flooring only because my floor is so bad. If you have a clean concrete floor, you can do it on it. But my floor is so bad that whatever sticky substance go on the floor, if I lift, the first layer is gonna just rip off. So that's why the lino to work. So I remember Hyungjong making the slabs, and the clay they're quite hard, otherwise you won't be able to flip and throw it. So it's quite hard, as you can see. But it gets soft as you try and so the technique for slabbing is basically this movement, but the most important bit is to not let go your hands on mid-air, but to bring it all the way down to the floor, which is quite difficult. It's more easier said than done. I still sometimes just let go mid-air and then I lose it, but that's the principle. So it's this. And when I was at Hyungjong's studio, it was very funny. We would be practicing in the studio, and he'll be quite a distance away, and he comes back saying, "Oh, I heard someone made a very good slab, and some sounds were not good." So he knows how it lands on the ground and how well the slab would have been made. I think I can just about kind of know by sound, but that was a bad one because I let go. My aim is to make a square slab. You can see how hard the clay is because it doesn't move very much when you pick it up. This technique is really, I find it very helpful because some of the rolling pins are not always long enough, and this you can make really big slabs quite quick. issues I have with mine slabs are they are sometimes not always even. It's a bit thick there. I think that's the desired. And if you find the slabs a bit thin in one way, what you can do is you can lift and then fold. You can lift a bit and fold, and you can kind of thicken the area that you feel it's thin. It's definitely thicker there. So I cheat. Sometimes I've almost got the thickness I want and it's just a bit thicker on the other side. I'll just roll it out. But sometimes, you know, I manage to get the slab all the way around even thickness, but not always the case. I'm going to try and thin there. Because it's quite thin, maybe I can go just one more. It. I think it's a bit thick on this side, but generally here it's all even, so I leave it as it is. So the box I'm going to make, this slab is actually a little too wet, so I transfer it onto a wooden board and I cover with plastic, and it depends on how hot or cold. For me, covering, I was able to use it the next day. London's been about 10-12 degrees and my studio is not so hot, so this continues from the slab making, and the slab you saw being made, won't be able to use that because it's a little too soft. So I will use a slab that I have made 2 days ago. I will show you how hard. It's like it's leather hard basically. So I'm going to use this slab to make the cube. So for a square box, if you use a square, it'll become a slight rectangular because of the top and the bottom. So the thickness of the clay will be added, so it wouldn't exactly be a square. So the previous box you saw was this size. I'll show you again. That's 8 by 8, but what I want to make today is 8 by 8.5 by 7.5, so it will become more of a square. So the longer length would be on the bottoms, because I will put a bottom and a top to finish the cube. So I will use this card to measure up. So I will make 4 sides of the wall with this, and then the top and bottom, though they will be almost fitting into this shape, because the square form will be slightly not exactly sharp square, because I'm going to bend the walls a bit so it becomes a bit of a rounded square, like only very slight. So I will cut out the bottom and the top using the actual 4 sides of the wall that I would be building. just going to leave a small mark here. That's the top. That's the top, because it's not exactly square. That's the top, that's the top. You get a far cleaner cut if you do a more shallow repeated cuts, then try and cut it in one. This is actually not a ruler, it's just a wooden slab to put the knife straight, because I don't need to measure as such, because I already marked it with a template. Right, so put that away. I'm going to put this slab away. So now I have all the side slabs. What I will do, I'll score it all at once. You can use whatever, you can use the knife to, a pin or a knife, you can score it all the way, I guess. But I, by chance, found this, I think I don't know what it is actually. It could be from a hardware store. I think someone left it in the studio after using it. I thought I'd just keep it, a big comb, a metal comb kind of thing. So you could score it all together, the whole fourth side. You don't have to do this, you can do it all individually. What I'll do is I'm going to try and bend the walls. Now it's really, really, really flat, but I want the box sides to have a slight dome, so it's not super square cube. So I'm bending it by pushing the middle bit out a little bit, so it has like a slight curve, but not so much. Someone with a keen ear would be noticing there's a kiln running in the background. I've just put a bisque kiln load on. So now you have slightly bent walls. It doesn't have to be huge, but just a little bit. And it's a preference thing, so you know, you can have it really, really sharp and square, or you can have it slightly bent so you have a bit of a curve. That's entirely up to you. So what I will do now is I am also going to score these edges. I'm not going to use this because the sides are bent, so it's not going to catch all the edges. So I'm going to score on this side. So you bring two sides and basically it's going to join like that. I don't use slip, but I score it quite deep on the joining points and add water. By doing that, you create an instant slip on those edges, which I think is more effective. I've never had any of the joints open up using it this way. You see, there's quite a lot of like slip created with water and scoring. So you want to make sure these two joints join quite well. So push it. This is why you want the clay to be leather hard and not too soft. Otherwise, you'll be distorting all the edges and it'll be quite difficult to handle. Connect these two, so they will be joining like that, basically. I'm going to connect all of that now. It becomes a cube. It becomes 4 sides. Right. So now it's connected, so you see the square. What I will do now is so now you take some soft clay and run a very thin coil around the joints that you've just created. I think I'm done. So you can see all the edges inside joint. And what I noticed with my previous boxes I've made, you kind of sometimes notice these joints that where it's connected on the outside, and you know, people may not notice, but it bothers me. So what I've done with the boxes, the box that I made a few days ago, is I've run a very thin but soft clay, the part that's connecting outside, because I don't want to see the joint history. Sometimes it's nice to see those joint marks, but on this box you want the box to have just, the square to have just appeared, if you know what I mean. So I'm just going to run just a tiny bit of clay. So it will make the joints stronger. So I've never had any boxes of the joints open up in the firing, but you never know. What I'll do now, given now the 4 walls are built, I will bring the slab back. The slab I had used. So I just need, I guess, an indication where the top and the bottom is. Maybe not really. So what I do now is I basically just get a cut of the, I'm just going to mark out the other bottom and the top side. So I know that it will go directly, but what is handy is if you were to move it about, so you knew it was, remember that it was marked like that, but it's just to remember that should fit there. You can just leave a little cut mark. So this is the that. Leave that aside. While I have the slab, I'm going to do the top as well. And just leave a mark, maybe a double line, so I know. This is another tip I learned from another maker. If the wherever you have to score is hard, the clay, if it's harder than you would want, you water the surface first and then score. I'll do the same here. I'm going to slightly water. Oh, I rarely remember to finish my hot drink whenever I made it for myself in the studio. Halfway through whatever you're doing, and then I remember, oh, my tea is gone cold. Right. So that's done. So I will do the same process of running a thin, wet, thin, soft coil on the bottom edges. Right, so I don't get mixed up, what I'll do is, and for the bottom, I'm just gonna push the middle bit slightly in so it doesn't bulge out, just tiny bit. I'm gonna do my signature. Because the edges, I'm just gonna, while I'm at the base, I'm just gonna tidy up a bit. We'll come back to tidy up all these edges. Now I'm going to put the top on like that. So it's going to be the same, but I'm going to just push. Hang on, it's going to fit like this, isn't it? So I'm going to just push out ever so slightly in the middle. So that's the actual cube made. What I want to do, which I normally don't do, is I normally keep these sharp edges, but I want to soften a little bit this time. So I'm going to use a serrated kidney and shave down all the edges. But if you want the edges to be kind of sharp, you can keep it. Just to quickly get the bottom edges. I mean, this could be just a decorative piece, you put it on your table, but anything that you use, if the edges are really sharp, there is a risk that it will chip off easily, so it's worth kind of just smoothing it off, just to make it a slight curve. Then it kind of makes it more practical, basically. That's kind of the basic shape of the cube is kind of made. So I'm just gonna kind of bit the edges to be just tidy up. This is actually a back of a comb that I was no longer using, but I thought I'd keep it to use it on occasions like this. Just to kind of straighten the line a bit. And we're pushing wherever it's not kind of where it's a bit bumpy. I'm not putting it down completely because, as you remember, I've pushed out all the walls out a little bit, so I don't want to lose that slight. It's kind of lost a bit, but I don't want to lose that slight curve that it's nearly invisible, but it's still there. So the cube is now complete. I will move on to do the lid and the gallery inside. Right, so the cube is made. I just want to show you that now it becomes like a square 8.5 centimeter box is made from 8.5 times 7.5. Right, so I will now show you how I do the lid and the gallery. Basically, the gallery is this bit here, where the lid will sit, and also in order for the lid to not slip off. As the boxes have slight curves on their sides, what I use is a foam. So we will cut the lid from the whole body. So this is the top, so we will put it to the side to cut the lid on all four sides. You could leave a slight mark before you cut through. I guess I could try it. I guess where it's important is this edges where it meets. So I am going to go right in. You want to be very careful with these edges, that you want a real clean line, because this is where the two parts will meet. So the neater and the less distorted, the better it will sit together once once the lid is finished. But it's always kind of quite difficult to get it cut very clean. Just that. Voila, so this is going to be our lid. I'll just carefully transfer over. We don't need the foam. So here, where you cut off, and before you do anything, you need to decide where your front would be. I think I like this side most, so I'm going to leave a mark, something like that, quite small, so you know that once this is removed and you do work, you can still go back to this side again. So now we have the lid. We will do the gallery on the body. What I'll do is I'll do the lid first. Actually, I do need the foam again. On the lid, all you need to do is to try and run a coil on the edges, and that would be it. And one more thing I will show you. So it's done. What I want to do, just one little thing on the lid, is to just shave a tiny bit, maybe 2 mil maximum, these edges, because it's to ease the lid to go on to the gallery, because it's just a bit of excess there that was pushed in when I was cutting. So it's just to make sure it's kind of leveled and no clay is hanging over that will make it difficult for the lid to shut well. And now you want to just leave that on the side, ideally on a foam. And now what we want to do is try and create the gallery. You want relatively wet clay. My clay is not so wet, so I'm just making it a bit softer. Going to just score all the edges. This is where that little piece of coil will go up. It's a bit thick, so I'm just going to slice it a bit. Want to just go just ever so slightly. So now I'm gonna try and push the inside. Basically I've smeared it all the edges inside. Don't know whether you can see it, but I've done it roughly. I'm gonna tidy up a bit later. And here, because the clay is a bit wet, the tip I learned from is to put a piece of plastic and then basically to go over to smooth it, thin it, and also to make sure that it connects to on that rim on the edge. So basically to make it a bit triangular and slightly beveling inwards, because the lid will go in. It's 90 degrees, so you want to not make it 90 degrees, but slightly inward so the lid will slide in. And also to make sure that this little gap here on the rim would be filled through that repeated motion. It's getting there. Cool. And try and put the lid on. What you could do is, if you think this gallery clay is really wet, and if you want to just try the lid and to see how it fits, because you might have to shave certain parts down a bit more. A good tip is to put very thin piece of plastic and then put the lid on. Then you don't have the worry of the two parts getting stuck. I have done so and managed to ruin the gallery I've spent time making. So this is a good way to try, and it kind of gives you an idea where it's thick. I'll show you what I mean. So where it becomes a bit, where there's a mark, that's where the lid has pressed in, so you want to basically take clay off those edges. It's a much better fit. What I'm going to do is actually cover up the edges here a bit more rather than trying to I think the fit is fine as it is. And it was obvious I didn't point it out, but the gallery height here obviously cannot be higher than the lid depth. So that's kind of an obvious point, but if you have a very, very shallow lid, then you have to really make sure that this height of that gallery is going to be very low. I think it's okay as a fit. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. So here you can put anything really as a mark. I could what I might do is two little dots on the lid and the you can have one piece. You can have one piece like this, and then stick it and cut where the lid is. Then you have the lid and the bottom, and then you kind of close it there. But I've already got one like that, so what I want to do instead is to have two little flat circles. that's today's one. And then this is the one I made a few days ago. So you can have it like this as one piece cut, or you can have two separate, or whatever you fancy. This is it. So let's see what I will be storing in these boxes. Thank you for watching. Bye.